If you're about to make a change in your life and you feel uncomfortable, that's the best feeling you can have. Because for the first time in your life, you're making a decision that's going to be best for you and not what somebody told you to do. And that's when all bets are off, man, because you're about to enter some uncharted waters that's going to force you to challenge yourself to be perfect in so many ways. And shooting for perfection is all good.
Well, a habit is a redundant set of automatic, unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. A habit is when you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your mind. People wake up in the morning, they begin to think about their problems. Those problems are circuits of memories in the brain. Each one of those memories are connected to people and things at certain times and places. And if the brain is a record of the past, the moment they start their day, they're already thinking in the past. Each one of those memories has an emotion. Emotions are the end product of past experiences. So the moment they recall those memories of their problems, they all of a sudden feel unhappy, they feel sad, they feel pain.
Because we are wired to like what is familiar and to resist what's unfamiliar. And the most important thing to make familiar is praising yourself.
You have no idea of the breathtaking future that's on its way to you, that's asking you, please let me through. When you decide that you are good enough, when you decide you give yourself permission to have it all, have all the love, have all the health, when you give yourself permission, it's like the inside of your champion is saying, let me out.
You don't shoot for average, because you're not gonna hit all the time. If you shoot for perfection and you hit good or great, you're winning. You have to make adjustments to achieve your goal.
Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. I'm saying be radical enough, be outrageous enough, be unapologetic enough to hold fear in one hand and passion in the other and leap anyway.
The people that you most admire, the people that have achieved at a level that you want to achieve, they are no different than you. They simply know what they want to become, and they're paying the price to get there. That's it. Right now, between me and the person I want to be, between you and the person you want to be, there is a gap of skill set, and that's it. But once you know your mission, and once you believe that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to, then you can do the extraordinary. Now for me, getting out of that space of being lost, of not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, it all came down to needing to earn credibility with myself in very small, incremental ways.
Everyone has got three things wrong. The number one is I'm not enough. The second one is I'm different, so I can't connect. And the third is I really want something like freedom from depression or success, but it's not available. All of those things come from a feeling of emptiness inside because we're taught, oh, you feel a feeling? Why don't you eat some donuts or go into eBay and buy, or Amazon, or have a drink? And our feelings are the most real thing we have. And we push them down. We find all this stuff to buy or eat or drink or take to keep us, like John Lennon said, comfortably numb. But then the feelings regroup and come back because they've always got a job to do.
Now, how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So the person's entire state of being when they start their day is in the past. So what does that mean? The familiar past will sooner or later be predictable future.
Fear is an emotion like any other emotion. Fear is an emotion like love, like compassion. Fear is an emotion, we just gave it more power. Compassion, oh, that's nice. Fear, ooh. We gave it a meaning. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear is a story that you've told yourself about something that might happen in the future.
It was about changing my identity. Because at the end of the day, identity and values drive behavior. So if you want to make a change, you have to change your vision of who you are. You have to begin telling yourself a different narrative. And the narrative you tell yourself about yourself is everything.
We keep firing and wiring those circuits, they become more hardwired. So you have a thought and then the program runs. but it's the emotion that follows the thought. If you have a fearful thought, you're going to feel anxiety. The moment you feel anxiety, your brain's checking in with your body and saying, yeah, you're pretty anxious. So then you start thinking more corresponding thoughts equal to how you feel.
You've got to feel the feeling until it no longer requires to be felt. You can't eat it or drink it or shop it away, but we're all taught that we can and should.
When you want to do something in your life, you don't put options out there. You don't put a B plan. This is what you want to do. You commit to it. Because as you become successful, people will have definitions of who you are and also proclaim your level of success for what you should be accomplishing.
We have to begin to start living for something that's meaningful. We have to start living for something that has the capacity to not just impact our lives, but the lives of other people. Because human beings long for connection. We don't want money, we want connection. We want belonging.
Most people then wait for crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis. They wait for loss, some tragedy to make up their mind to change. And my message is, why wait? And you can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, or you can learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration. And I think right now, the cool thing is that people are waking up.
If you keep it simple, you can find your voice. And also know that you operate off short-term goals. When you don't know where you're going in life, do not look 4 years down the line. Do not look 2 years or a year. You look next week, next month. You keep your goals short, and that way as you accomplish those goals, then you can start piling up little trophies or little moments to know that you're actually accomplishing something. You're actually climbing the steps to success. And so I always tell people, shorten your goals, shorten your window, and that's how you find your voice.
Once I switched my narrative to being the learner, it didn't matter where I started, it only mattered where I was trying to go. And as long as I had that clarity, then I could execute, because I believed I could do anything I set my mind to without limitation.
Turns out most people spend 70% of their life living in survival and living in stress. So they're always anticipating the worst case scenario.
We want to finally find a place where we fit in this world. The only problem is that we don't fit in the world. Because if you're fitting in the world, you're not able to make the difference that you're here to make. It means that you've been dumbed down to a point of operating in the same way every other member of the herd is operating. At that point, you become completely ineffective. This is why you are suffering. So you are weird for a reason. You care more about your self-image than you do about living in the truth of who you are.
I want you to imagine you're at the end of the road. And you know you're at the end of the road. Just imagine, all you can do is relive your life. I want you to imagine you're there and you go back and think, God, I wonder if we had moved there, what would have happened? And then, God, if I could only do it over again. I said, wouldn't that be terrible? Spend the last days of your life like that? Wouldn't it be better if you look back and say, wow, what a trip. When you lose it big enough, it can be exhilarating. And then we did this, and what you're doing is laying there and you're reliving your whole life. Well, there's where the goals come in. That's where the purpose for life comes in. You gotta have a main purpose, you gotta have a purpose for life. And you've gotta have meaningful goals. They've gotta be meaningful. You're trading your life for it.
In immersive experiences. So a lot of us today, we live in this world which is like 10 minutes a day. Do it for 10 minutes a day, everything will be great. And that is great, there's nothing wrong with that. And meditation, mindfulness, all these habits are the same. The more you immerse yourself, the more you get an experience that stays with you, the more that you can live with that experience and keep going back to it for 10 minutes a day. So I really believe in immersive experiences. I love the 10-minute-a-day advice, but I also deeply believe in having a deep, immersive, absorbed experience that completely takes over your whole body, mind, and soul.
biggest one I would say is never pick the easy road. Never. Never. And it always goes back to kind of the hero mentality. Never pick the easy road. Ever in your life. That is the one road that is doomed. It is doomed. You may achieve what you wanted, but you want the permanent fix. The permanent fix comes from the hard road. The hard road gives you permanent. The easy road gives you the quick fix. You will go back to where you started on the easy route. That hard route is so permanent that it ends up callousing you everywhere. Everywhere.
Have you come here to avoid life or to experience life? Experience life. All the different dimensions of what this life holds must happen to you, isn't it so? If you come to avoid life, if you feel insecure, that's what you will do. You will try to avoid life. When you're alive and try to avoid life, it'll cause immense misery. When you're alive, you live. When you die, you die. Don't get up from the dead.
Visualization is a gift to your heart and your soul. It's a gift. Because if the idea is the seed, visualization is the fertilizer. It's the fertilizer. Because when your thoughts are connected with an emotion, see, you visualize yourself winning, and you would feel all the emotion that came with that. And all you're doing now is you're not chasing a foreign emotion. You know the feeling, and now you're just doing what's necessary to get back to that feeling in real time. And it's real important in the visualization. You can't see it over there. You have to see it right here. You got to feel it right here, like I am. It's all I am. I am. I am in my dream home. I am in my dream relationship. And then unpack what that looks like. But most importantly, unpack what it feels like. And when you have that emotion in this moment, all of a sudden you stir up something that I don't think will ever go back to sleep. It'll go, okay, let's go get that.
I have a philosophy that every moment, every precious nanosecond and moment is perfect. And so when I connect to the perfection of that moment, there's really nothing to do. It's to be aware and to allow, to surrender, but not to give up surrender, but to understand that, as we're talking right now, the oceans don't need any instruction what to do. The planets that are moving in their elliptical orbits around the sun don't need yours or my intervention. The universe, the Milky Way galaxy that's flowing through the universe at 1.5 million miles per hour doesn't need yours and my instruction. So that means that every moment is perfect. So I want to connect to the perfection of every single moment. Be aware of that every single moment.
So life is. There has never been a point, any time, and there never will be, where everything is perfect. Okay? There's no such thing. Because life is a possibility. Because it's a possibility, it cannot be perfect. It doesn't matter what we do, there's still something more to do.
And the power of that, you can't overstate the power of that for individuals to get their life together. The individual is an unbelievably powerful force, and every single person who gets their act together a little bit has the capacity to spread that around them. It's a chain reaction, and so it's a lovely thing to see.
Is that it's a mix of pain and pleasure, and that's what makes it so powerful. The idea of our mortality is obviously very painful, right? What could be more painful? But the idea of transforming that into something beautiful, into something enlightening, into something that kind of fills us with a much different spirit, which motivates us to get something done, which makes us appreciate what we can look at. We're alive and the sky is blue, and and all that. So mortality has this ability to sharpen our senses, to sharpen our appreciation of life, and that turns the pain into pleasure. But the pain and pleasure always go together. So underneath that kind of ecstatic feeling that you feel when you're aware that there's eternal time and that there are all these insanely wonderful things around the world, is always going to be mixed with that tincture of pain about how I'm going to be gone and I won't be here to appreciate it. But that mix of the two emotions is what makes it so powerful and so insanely addictive, right? Because pure pleasure on its own can almost get monotonous.
The things that break your heart, if you choose, can open your heart. Fear, the world says fear is bad. Fear is only an opportunity for bravery training. We do make excuses because we are very good at self-deception. Because if we actually had to face the responsibility of playing with our bigness in the world, we'd have to let go of our addiction to our excuses and leave what's safe. And we'd have to actually leave the pain to go out to the possibility of pleasure and joy and greatness. And believe it or not, that frightens us.
Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. And so it's a fight, it's a challenge in life every day. And what we have to do is embrace it. What we have to do is see it as a project to be worked on. And I read something once that I live by. It said, in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges.
Number one is that you need to really get amped up about why that goal matters to you. Because once you know why the goal matters, that's going to be that thing that gives you meaning and purpose, that turns into a passion, that allows you to show up and keep doing it when you're bored. Because boredom kills more dreams than failure, I just promise you. You just get to the point where it's such a grind, and you've got to do it day after day, month after month, year after year. It's just like it really drags on. It's like it's easy to do something once, maybe you can do it for a week, but when you have to just keep at the grind, then you really have to have a strong why. Because you can do anything you want in life, just not everything.
A huge believer in the power of intention and awareness. So when these negative thoughts creep in, whatever they are, fear, I'm aware of my own thinking. And once you're aware of a thought, it loses its power to have a feeling over you. If you don't align your thoughts and your feelings, neither one has any power. There has to be a congruency between what you're thinking and what you're feeling. That's why, like, for example, when people set up all these goals, I'm gonna make $1 million, or I'm gonna be happy, or I'm gonna lose 20 pounds. In the moment you're having that thought, if you're feeling that you can't have it, if you're feeling that's not going to happen, your body, which is your unconscious mind actually at work, the feeling overrides the thought and that goal has no power.
You realize whatever it is you're going to give yourself over to and do all the way, it needs to be something that you are really on fire about. Now, getting on fire about something, you're not born with that. You cultivate that fire. So you're gonna pick something, starts as an interest, you're gonna pick it, engage with it, fan the flames of that fire by talking about it to yourself, to your friends, to your family, to anybody who will listen, about why it matters to you, and then you go hard on that.
That is a constant, and it's something that you can't control, right? You just cannot control the things that are happening in the world around us, but you can always control what you're thinking and what you're doing in response to it. So all of my work centers inside this gap between what's happening in your life and in your work and what your reaction is to it, and how you can't control the things that are going on around you, but you can always control what your reaction is. And that gap there, that's about 5 seconds long. And you start to understand that you can change how you think, you can change your habits, you can change how you lead, you can pivot, you will become unstoppable.
And I always, no matter how much I've accomplished in life, my life is always lived at day one, week one, because that's where you grind. You grind at the beginning. And we always start to get very complacent and very comfortable as we start to get to where we're going. We start to relax. We don't wake up early in the morning. We're not prepared. You start to get this very soft mentality. And then you become that person. So that's why the day one, week one mentality throughout your whole life, it keeps you grinding hard.
Emotion is a muscle. I mean, I think the most powerful muscles are the invisible force muscles. It's your spiritual emotional muscles. Like courage unused doesn't grow, it shrinks. So I pass on the line regularly so that it grows, and when it keeps growing, then pretty soon the stuff that used to make me crazy, it doesn't touch me. It's not that I'm so great, just I'm well trained. But the main reason I do it, even more than that, you know how people negotiate, well, maybe we'll do it tomorrow, I'm gonna do this, or oh, let me wait 2 more minutes till I'm ready. There's none of that with me. For decades I go, I say, we do. I'm not here to discuss with my mind. There's mind, and then there's soul and spirit. And soul and spirit, my soul knows. And when I say jump, you can jump. I'm not here to have a discussion with you.
I want to say this is doable. It is hard. But even if the deck is stacked against you, even if you do legitimately have it worse than every other human being on the planet, now what? Now what? What are you going to do? You're not a bad person if you're like, it's just not worth the energy, right? Let's know our why. Let's know what we're going for. Focus on that. You got to focus on the motivation. You've got to get yourself in a position where you want the change. But don't spend cycles lashing yourself, hating yourself. I can think of nothing worse. Put time and energy into it. They're choices. No matter how hard something is, you've got a choice. And so I always come back to that one simple phrase, now what?
And so what I want you to understand is that if you look back on your life, you have had moments where you have felt passion. Your purpose on earth is to figure out how to align your life so that you feel more energized and excited by it. That's it.
Mission in life has been, and still is to give people a vision of themselves beyond their mental conditioning and their circumstances, to let them know that they have greatness within them. But Han, greatness, it's not our destiny. It's a choice that you have to make every day.
Oftentimes when you hit bottom, you bounce. And that's where I think the power is. That when the world feels upside down, you always have the power to make it right. When one chapter ends, you always have the power to write a new one. When, you feel like nobody loves you, you have the power to learn how to love yourself.
You are but one habit, one killer routine away from having the exact life that you want. Your life is a reflection of the choices that you make. It doesn't mean that some things aren't way harder for you than they are for other people. It doesn't mean that other people don't have more motivation than you. But all of us can make a different choice at any time, set rules in our lives, focus on our motivation, get super hyped about something, find a way by connecting this hard-ass thing that we have to do to our identity, to a person that we love, and letting it be about them, not just that thing. Use any tool at your disposal. But if you get the habits, the routines, the rules, the identity right, you get all that stuff right, and you will have your ideal life.
But the mentality of can't hurt me is just that. No matter what's in front of you, man, you have to face, you have to confront, you have to overcome and move forward.
It's an image of the structures that we strive to create. It's what we're striving towards when we walk uphill. This is what it means. It means that, you know, everyone has their disabilities, let's say. But the question is, what do you do about that? And what you do is you set yourself up on your damn crutches and you struggle up the bloody hill. That's what you do. That's what you do. Because the alternative is to descend into the abyss. Teach people to stand up in the face of the things they're afraid of. They get stronger. And you don't know what the upper limits to that are, because you might ask yourself, like, if for 10 years, if you didn't avoid doing what you knew you needed to do, by your own definitions, right, within the value structure that you've created, to the degree that you've done that, what would you be like? Well, you know, there are remarkable people who come into the world from time to time, and there are people who do find out over decades-long periods what they could be like if they were who they were, if they spoke their being forward. And they'd get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we don't know the limits to that. We do not know the limits to that. And so you could say, well, in part, perhaps the reason that you're suffering unbearably can be left at your feet, because you're not everything you could be, and you know it. And when you're in the zone, you're expanding your skills in a manner that's intrinsically rewarding because you're succeeding. And so you want to set, if you're good to yourself, you think, okay, I need to set a goal, but I need to set a goal that someone as stupid and useless as me could probably attain if they put some effort into it. And then you've got it perfectly, because it's not so high that it's grandiose or impossible that you fail necessarily and then justify your bitterness. It's like, yes, exactly. Well, I set a goal and I didn't attain it, so I'm not going to set any more goal. Like, no, you set a goal that was inappropriate. That's right, you didn't calibrate it properly. And you're playing a trick on yourself because you wanted to fail so that you could justify not having to try, which isn't helpful. You're still going to be a victim. It's like there's no way out of that, you know, because life is a challenge that in some sense can't be surmounted. So there's no way out of your problem, but there are certainly proper ways of dealing with it. 60 years to put yourself together, and God only knows what you could become. And that message is so much more, it's so funny because it's such an attack, but it's so positive because there's faith there in the potential that makes up the person rather than the miserable actuality that happens to be manifesting itself at the moment. And young people respond extraordinarily well to that because, and you know that if you're a parent and you love your child, your son, your daughter, what you're trying to foster is the best in them. You want that to manifest itself across the course of their life. You want them to become continually more than they are, to see what they could be. And that's the ethical requirement of individual being in the proper sense, is to constantly note that you're not what you could be, to take responsibility for that, and to commit yourself, like body and soul, to the attainment of that ideal. You have to move from point A to B in life, but point A is often a very difficult place to be because we're fragile and bounded and mortal and limited, and because we know that. And so one of the implications of that is that life is essentially suffering. And I believe that to be a fundamental truth. But perhaps not the most fundamental truth, because I think the most fundamental truth is that despite the fact that life is suffering, people can transcend that. And partly the way they transcend that is by pursuing things of value. And so that if there is no value proposition at hand, then you have no meaning to justify the difficult conditions of your life. If you think about the times when you're at peace with yourself with regards to how you're conducting yourself in the world, it's almost always conditions under which you've adopted responsibility, right? At least the most guilt I think that you can experience perhaps is the sure knowledge that you're not even taking care of yourself, so that you're leaving that responsibility to other people, because that's pretty pathetic. And an even smaller minority think that's justifiable. But most of the time you're in guilt and shame because not only are you not taking care of yourself, let's say, so someone else has to, but you're not living up to your full potential. And so there's an existential weight that goes along with that. What life will be, which is at minimum a series of difficult challenges, and often more than that, because of course people go through very difficult times in their lives. And a resilient person is capable of standing up to things in the face of fear and moving forward voluntarily, convinced of their own competence and ability to prevail. And I mean that literally, to instill in them a sense of courage in the face of the difficulties of life, and not to protect them from that. We don't even want to be protected from those difficulties, because a major part of life and its meaning is the challenge that comes with confronting difficulties. You know, Nietzsche said, he who has a why can bear any how. People who have no purpose in their life are embittered by the difficulties of their life. And they become first bitter, and then resentful, and then revengeful, and then cruel. And there's plenty of places to go past cruel. That's just where you start if you're really on a downhill path. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not to who someone else is today. Because even if the perfect opportunity manifested itself to you in your incomplete form, the probability that you would recognize it as the perfect opportunity is zero. You might even think it's the worst possible idea that you've ever heard of anywhere. And so you can take these tentative steps on your pathway to destiny, and you can assume that you're going to do it badly. And that's really useful, because you don't have to beat yourself up. It's pretty easy to do it badly. But the thing is, it's way better to do it badly than not to do it at all. So you start your path and you think that you're heading, towards your star. And so you go in that direction. And then, because you're here, the world looks a particular way. But then when you move here, the world looks different, and you're different as a consequence of having made that voyage. And so what that means is that now that thing that glimmers in front of you is going to have shifted its location, because you weren't very good at specifying it to begin with, and now that you're a little sharper and more focused than you were, it's going to reveal itself with more accuracy to you.
People used to ask me, like, oh, how do you get rid of the negative voice? I'm like, I don't know that you want to. Like, the negative voice is a powerful reminder to practice gratitude. It's also a good reminder that maybe something is wrong. Maybe you are doing something wrong, and you should adjust, and you should rethink.
I should say, activity without purpose is the drain to your life. Activity without purpose is the drain to your life. It's the drain to your wealth, it's the drain to your lifestyle. If you can develop a psychology of resilience in yourself, you don't have to be optimistic or fake, you can be real. The realness is, whatever shows up, you are larger than anything that can happen to you. I'm telling you, this is the secret, the real secret, to shift it inside of you and to add the real value. Most people are trying to pursue something in the future that they already have. It says, no more, I'm gonna change this. And suddenly you do something to make your life better. You break out of the impossibility of life has to be this way, or life is controlling me.
And so the model for me is this, and I just want to say this to everybody. There's probably a point in your life where you were given a script of who you were supposed to be, whether it's your parents or your friends or your spouse. And we live too often in our lives some other person's script, right? Someone else's script. Remember this, you're the lead character in the story of your life, and the person who controls that script is you and your God. And at any point, you can decide to step into a new chapter. You can step into be a whole new leading character.
A day at a time with the big picture in mind. I mean, we all want to be heading somewhere, but if we're staring at that mountaintop, we're going to trip on the way. You know, and I would say this, that yes, we want the vision, but when we get to the top of that proverbial mountain, it is not a ta-da moment. It is not a, now I've got it. No, by the time you get there, you've got double the amount of ambitions and opportunities and challenges ahead of you than you did when you started. And it's great, because that means you've evolved. It means there's been some ascension to life. Stay in the race, commit to the chase. Realize individually and as a people that's as good as it gets. Meaning we're never gonna reach our fully transcendent self. That's the point. We keep chasing it. We're never gonna have perfect justice in society. That's the point. You keep trying to get it. You know, we're just tapping into the 11%. And if we can say, oh, the process, we stay in it. Yes, we want vision. We want to know where we're going. We want to write the headline first and go, I'm going to hit that place. That's where I want to be. Well, you get there, the headline is not exactly as you wrote it before you took off. Hopefully it's generally in the same storyline structure, but it's always yet, because even when you get to where you think you want to be, you're still going, oh, this is just on the way to yet.
Most people aren't, but that doesn't mean there isn't something you could be great at. There's lots of hierarchies to attempt to climb, and if you fail in one, go try in another. But the point is, you're still trying to aim for the top, and what the hell are you going to do if you don't try to aim for the top? You know, flap about uselessly and whine about your life? It's not helpful. It'll just make you miserable. You're not reliable to anyone. You can't help out in a crisis. It's like, so you tell young people, and this is another message for conservatives, like, I don't care what you're going to do, but go out there and make something of yourself for God's sake. Be an honest person and work and get to the top of whatever it is that you want to get to the top of. You know, and stand up for yourself like a respectable human being and be a bit of a light on the world instead of a blight. You know, and you can tell young people that, and they haven't been told that by anyone now. And so the young men are so hungry for that it's painful to watch. They're so relieved when someone finally comes up and says, hey, you know, you get your act together a bit, discipline yourself, see if you can learn to tell the truth, concentrate on something for a year or two, you could be a bloody world beater.
When you can do that and start to feel great about little things, every day starts to feel like Christmas. And when you can say, I love the change, every change in my life is change for the better. There's something good coming from this. When you can remember you must take control of the direction of change in your life and make it change for the better. When you can do that, your life is extraordinary.
And so what I tell people is, because you're more likely to believe something negative, don't even worry about what's true. Worry about what empowers you. Both of those narratives are based on facts. So the truth of one or the other doesn't matter. One is empowering and one is disempowering. Act in accordance with the one that's empowering.
Unbelievable! What a foolish word. A rude and disrespectful word. We think we use it to flatter and give credit to, wow, what an unbelievable play. What an unbelievable film. What an unbelievable act of courage. What an unbelievable sunset. Now, why would we define things that are incredible and awesome, things that actually make us believe in them more, with this pillar of autonomy? Unbelievable. The things we usually say unbelievable about are the things, as I said, that make us believe in the awesomeness of life more.
Each other all the time, don't they? Another form of distraction is just doubt, and doubt comes from the suffer. It comes from a loss. It comes from fear. It comes from the sacrifice. And so just remember this, you're supposed to suffer and sacrifice. So let me ask you a question. What are you willing to risk in order to make your dream come true? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're going to take a risk. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's a risk of time. Maybe it's a risk at your job. Maybe it's a risk of looking bad. Maybe it's a risk of failing, of falling on your face, of going broke, of going through pain, of going through anxiety. Maybe it's even a risk in a relationship that's just going to be difficult while you do this. What are you willing to risk in order to win? And you have to accept that, because remember what I'm going to tell you. The price you will pay for not making your dream come true is far greater than the one that you will pay to make it come true.
Well, you're nowhere near what you could be. That's the positive message. It's like, yeah, you're a mess, but you don't have to stay that way.
The constraints we put on ourselves, our potential, those are man-made. Who the hell do we think we are putting those ceilings above ourselves? That's a very arrogant thing for me and us to do. It's an arrogant thing for us mortals to put a roof over our head and go, well, that's as good as it can get. That's as much as I can succeed. That's as much as I can love. That's as sad as I can get. That's as happy as I can get. Now, no more. Again, we're just tapping into the 11%. Most of the times we think our wax is melting on our wings because we're too close to the sun. There's still ice and snow on the ground. It ain't even close to being hot enough to melt the wax. We've got so much further that we can fly that we do not give ourselves the credit for. So take the roof off and say, no, this is not even close as good as it can get. I'm tapping into the 11%. I've got trust. I trust that we have so much further we can fly than we even mortally give ourselves credit for. And to put a ceiling on ourselves is actually arrogant.
Within yourself, have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? Everything that ever happened to you, darkness and light happened within you, pain and pleasure happened within you, joy and misery happened within you. Have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? No. So what I am asking you is, what happens within you? Who should determine how it should happen? What happens within you? Who should determine how this should happen? Somebody else? Definitely you should determine what should happen within this, isn't it? So if you determine what's happening within this, your whole experience of life will be determined by you, nobody else but you, isn't it?
The first thing they should do is understand why we have goals, not just to set a goal, because most people don't set goals right. They're operating with a limited level of consciousness, so they're thinking, could get a little more money, and if I could get him to help me and her to help me and this happened, then I could do this. Maybe this is get a new car. What we've got to understand is we're trading our life for our goals. Literally trading our life. Would you trade your life for a car or a house? I don't think so. So it's got to be something really meaningful. And we're not taught to think this way. We should sit down and don't give any thought to where the money's going to come from, where the help's going to come from. It's what do you really want?
To go and follow that, go and live that purpose. And I see time and time again that when I see people trying to live their purpose, they are protected, that things work. When you're playing in your dharma and your purpose, things work, things move, they happen. And I'm not saying they happen without effort, but they happen, they move. Whereas when you're not, you just constantly feel like you're grinding up against, a wall.
How important is it to you to grow? Because you were put on earth to grow, to contribute, to serve, to help. You were in your way. And the current version of you is perfect as it stands right now, but it will be inferior next year. You're perfect as you are now. Ladies, men, you too, you are perfect as you exist right now, but that version of you isn't sufficient next year. You gotta be crazy, hungry, crisis to get to that next version of you.
And often people try and belittle and devalue their own pain to get out of it, but that actually just slows down the process and then they're back to square one again. So you've got to accept the pain you went through You've got to accept that you want to heal it. One of the best ways to explain this is how what we search for in our partners or in life is what we did or didn't get from our parents. We need to have the awareness of developing the emotional skills that our parents didn't have. So again, reminding ourselves of being aware that we're literally creating lives that will continue in the same direction unless our mindset changes.
Start breaking it down. Start breaking it down. And most of us, we live in a box. And we don't want to go outside that box at all, ever. Outside that box is all these possibilities of life. But what we do is we shackle our mind. We are a prisoner in our own mind that this is all I can do. This is all I'm good at. And we take away the possibilities of you could be this, you could be that, you could be all these things. There'd be nothing. So what people understand is that they live for themselves, not knowing that you have the power within yourself to change millions of lives by facing life. My biggest fear in life is if there is a final resting place in this world, and there's a final judgment, and you talk to something much bigger than you. I don't want to sit down and have a conversation with someone, with something that says, you're in heaven, this is what you should have been on earth. And are you really in heaven now, or are you in hell? Thinking about how much I left on the table for fear, for not willing to go over the wall, and over the next wall, and over the next wall. So in my mind, I believe that. And God knows all. At least I believe that. That's how I live my life. I now know that there is no cap on the human mind. There's no cap. We cap it ourselves.
I'm telling you, tell a good lie. I'm gonna make a difference in the world, and you don't believe it, but say it 1,000,000 times, you're gonna end up believing it. I'm meant to do something special in my life. There's no way in the world God put me on this planet to just be a regular guy. No way. The blood in here is boiling. I want to do something big with my life. This guy was put on this planet to make a difference. Say it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Convince everybody in the world. The entire time you're just trying to convince one person, and that is you. And that's the game of future truth.
See, there's a book being written about your life, isn't there? Someone somewhere is taking inventory of your life. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10. You write your own book. And at any moment in your life, you can decide that you want to make this the new chapter. You're literally in your life, you can turn the page. And those previous chapters are your old book. It's like Old Testament, New Testament. Old story, new story. They're connected, they're related, but you can flip the page and you can have a whole new story. If you decided right now, I am literally turning, my breakthrough is I turn the page, and in this second, I start to write the best chapters of my life. You could decide to do that.
We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number 1. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement.